Wringe Chapter 36. Despite the heat, he slept with his window shut and locked and the shade drawn. Still, he could hear them, Beans and Meadow, squalling like alley cats on the back porch roof. He could hear them raise the screen, knock on the window, work to open it. On the street, they tree stumped him. They planted themselves in front of him so that he had to step around them, only to find them replanted in his new path. It took him half an hour to walk 1 block. They mocked him and taunted him. They flicked his ears and spit on his sneakers. Beans bared his green and yellow teeth and breathed baked beans into his face. It was as if he had never been one of them. He's gone, he told them. They laughed. They didn't believe him. He had an idea. Invite them to his room. Let them see for themselves. Maybe then they would believe him. They would believe and back off. But then he realized that his mother would never again allow them into her house. It then occurred to him that when he thought of the guys, he was really thinking of only 2 of them, Beans and Meadow, not Henry. Henry was one of them, all right, but he was different. Maybe he could sneak Henry into his room, prove it to Henry. The guys agreed. He did not have to convince Beans and Meadow that his mother was dangerous to them, especially in her house. And while it frustrated them that only Henry would have the privilege, they were too curious not to let it happen. Beans looked up at Henry. He tugged on Henry's red and white striped t-shirt until Henry bent down to Beans' height. Check it out. Good. Don't let him trick you. Henry nodded. Report back to me. Okay. Palmer chose a morning when his mother was out, while Beans and Meadow waited, sitting brazenly across the street on Dorothy's front steps. He led Henry into his house. Up in the room, he held out both arms and said, "It's all yours. Look all you want." While Henry looked about, poking obediently into the closet, Palmer studied Henry. Henry was so tall that the top of his head grazed the basketball net, and yet somehow he did not give an impression of bigness. On the contrary, he seemed quite small, smaller than Beans and Meadow, smaller even than Palmer. "Thanks for the warning," Palmer said to him. Henry, peering foolishly into the wastebasket, said, "What warning?" "On the cake." Henry paused, then, "Oh, yeah." Palmer watched him search some more. "What's your real name?" Henry looked startled. His eyes went to the window as if the guys might be lurking there. He never looked at Palmer. "Huh? I know Beans' real name is Arthur, and Meadow is Billy. Who are you, really?" Henry dropped to his knees and ducked under the bed. He stood back up. His wide, startled eyes, careful to avoid Palmer, swept across the walls. "George," he said, and left the room. He hurried down the stairs. Palmer called. "George, quit," he called. "I saw you pulling your little sister in the wagon." But Henry, really George, was already out the door.